confidence, because you will win a series of cases, as I did, and then you'll lose that one case that is inexplicable. How could I ever lose that case? I thought I was a good lawyer. And all of a sudden, you question your worth because of that one loss. See, external victories do not create real sustained confidence. Sure, you win a case, you feel good about yourself, you momentarily have confidence, but they don't create real sustained confidence. Welcome to the Free Lawyer Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Miles. What if I told you that after 40 years of practicing law, I've discovered that the most confident attorneys in the courtroom share one trait that has absolutely nothing to do with being the smartest person in the room, winning every argument, or intimidating opposing counsel. In fact, this quality is so counterintuitive to what we're taught in law school that most attorneys dismiss it as a weakness. But here's the thing. When you master this one principle, you will never again walk into a courtroom wondering if you're good enough. You will never again lose sleep over what opposing counsel thinks of you. And you'll never, ever again feel like you're constantly having to prove your worth. I'm Gary Miles, and after 4 decades in this profession, fighting in the legal trenches, in courtrooms around the state of Maryland, from that overweight, glasses-wearing kid who got bullied to managing partner of a very successful law firm, I've learned that true confidence doesn't come from proving you're better than everyone else. It comes from being so grounded in who you are and what you bring that you don't need to prove anything at all. Today we're diving deep into what I call the grounded attorney. And by the end of this episode, you will understand why humility might just be your secret weapon to unshakable confidence. Let's talk about the meaning of the word humility. Humility does not mean weakness, and it does not mean making yourself small or apologizing for your success. Humility comes from the Latin word humilis, which means grounded. It means having such solid self-assurance that you don't need to puff yourself up to feel worthy. You are who you are. You know who you are. You know what you're about. You know your strengths. You know your weaknesses. You know what you bring to the table, and you're okay with that. That's humility. You know, when I began my career, I struggled a lot with confidence. I didn't believe in myself. I imitated other attorneys. I tried to emulate their style in the courtroom, even though it wasn't me. But over time, I grew to realize that I'm okay. I'm good at what I do. I'm not perfect. I have strengths. I have weaknesses. But I know what I'm about. And I know that I do a good job. And I know I do it with commitment. I developed a sense of seasoned confidence. And it's very different from relying on your track record of success. See, trying to prove yourself through results actually undermines your confidence, because you will win a series of cases, as I did, and then you'll lose that one case that is inexplicable. How could I ever lose that case? I thought I was a good lawyer. And all of a sudden, you question your worth because of that one loss. See, external victories do not create real sustained confidence. Sure, you win a case, you feel good about yourself, you momentarily have confidence, but they don't create real sustained confidence. See, humility is grounded in a belief in your competence, but you remain curious, open to growth, open to learning. And once you stop trying to prove yourself and you focus on serving your clients, the magic happens. Because now you're truly in alignment with yourself and your values, and you're finding fulfillment in your work through service. I had 2 mentors in my legal career that really changed everything for me. They both were senior partners in my firm. The first was Dick Lurch. He was a defense litigator, and I trained under him. He was my mentor in the courtroom and in other ways. And Dick was a pretty incredible guy. He had a very gentle strength that commanded respect. He was soft-spoken, quiet even, but he was very focused in how to, in such a nice way, completely disarm the opposing witness. And while he never raised his voice and yelled, juries hung on his every word. Judges listened to him. He made judges laugh and smile. He believed in connecting with his client, with the opposing counsel, with the judge and the lawyer. And that was his secret skill. That was his superpower, his ability to connect in an authentic, genuine way. He never needed to intimidate anyone. His style was that powerful. My other senior partner and mentor was Joe Huseman. He and I worked together for over 20 years. He served in the Marines. He served at Chosin Reservoir, a terribly sad and scary battle in the Korean War. And he was one of the most courageous attorneys I ever met, but without even a touch of arrogance. He would fight fiercely for his clients because it was the right thing to do, but not because of his ego. And I learned from him to not worry at all about what others think of you, because he didn't. He would go in and fight, and he didn't really care what anyone else thought, because he knew he was doing the right thing for his clients. And I've had several experiences in courtroom, and my practice have taught me some things about humility and being grounded. I had a case against one of the best lawyers in Howard County, a surrounding county to where I practiced. But it wasn't my county. It was not my county. I'd only been practicing 2 or 3 years. And I was so impressed by this lawyer. He dressed well, he spoke well, he knew all the judges. He was incredibly successful and highly regarded. And I kept calling him Mr. And he corrected me. He said, Gary, I call you Gary because I think lawyers should speak to each other in a friendly and personal way. And I want you to call me Hugh. I'm entitled to no more respect from you than you are from me. So if I call you Hugh, if I call you Gary, you should call me Hugh. You don't need to call me Mr. And to me, that was a real sign of humility. He knew what a good lawyer he was. I'm sure he knew he was a much better lawyer than I was at the time. But he was humble enough to let me know that he viewed me as his equal in the profession. What a great message that was. And very late in my career, I tried a case with Erwin Weiss, one of my best friends in law. We went to law school together. We would often touch base with each other about different cases we had. But he called me one day and said, I would like you to handle a mold property damage case for me. I said, Erwin, I know nothing about mold. He said, neither do I, so let's try it together. And we did. And we were very different from each other. I was very methodical, very organized. He was very dynamic and colorful and had a great style in the courtroom. And together we were truly unstoppable. But the key was we both put our egos aside. We weren't trying to prove who was better than the other. Instead, we wanted to form a really positive team, and we did. We got a $300,000 verdict on a property damage in a very conservative county, and it was triple what our highest settlement demand was. And it was because we teamed up together and shared our skills, but without any hint of trying to be better than the other person. And very late in my career, I had a clear liability auto tort. I lost it. I had no idea why I lost it. The other lawyer was barely contesting liability. He was contesting damages. And old Gary would have spent weeks obsessing about that case. What went wrong? How did that happen? What should I have done differently? How could I have let my client down? The grounded Gary said, what can I learn from that? What, if anything, did I do wrong that I can do differently next time? And the main thing I learned is anytime you walk in the courtroom, results can be very, very unpredictable. And then I moved forward. I didn't let it fester or wear me down. And I once tried a huge trucking case in federal court in Baltimore. And it was a very difficult case. My client was from the rural hills of Virginia, and he spoke with such a heavy accent he could barely be understood. Liability was quite a challenge. My opponent was very skilled, And the insurance company that sent me a lot of work was very concerned about the case. But instead of feeling pressure from all those, I was at a stage in my career where I could just do my job. I was grounded. I turned that high pressure, that situation into power, into force. I focused intently. I stayed present in the moment. And I got a very surprising defense verdict, which we didn't expect at all. So what are some things you can do on a daily basis to help to build up the sense of humility, this grounding in your practice? Well, the first thing I would suggest is every morning you spend about 5 minutes setting your intention for the day. Think about who you can serve that day. What matters you're going to handle for your clients? What lawyers you're going to talk to about their cases? What clients you're going to meet or talk to? And focus on how you can best be of service to them. And then think about how grateful you are for your staff. I had an amazing bookkeeper who was so fastidious and careful and never made a mistake, and a wonderful paralegal who was kind and helpful, wonderful with the clients. And think about being grateful for your clients who send you work and who trust you to get them out of that difficult situation. Instead of thinking about how can you make an impression today, how can you look good, think about how you can be of service. So instead of asking yourself, how can I make myself look good today? Think, how can I serve my staff and my clients well today? And if you set that intention for the day, so you're grounded from a place of service and gratitude, it will really make a difference. The next is to practice active listening with your staff when they're anxious or upset, with your clients who are concerned and worried. Listen carefully to them. Hear what they're saying. Absorb their feelings, their emotions. Try to sound back to them what you heard them saying. And then ask them, may I offer some suggestions, some advice, some comments? And when your clients are listened to actively, it really, really makes a difference. And I'd suggest you also listen to the opposing lawyer in the case. I had a case once where I had to do some investigation. I was defending a roller skate fall. And the other lawyer kept pressing me, what's your position? What's your position? And I would say, I'm investigating. And it was true, I was. Then our investigation was completed and the facts were quite different than what the plaintiff's attorney thought. So I called him and said, I've finished my investigation. Would you like to discuss the case? He said, sure. And as soon as I started to explain my position and he gathered it was different than what he was wanting to hear, he interrupted me. He raised his voice. I let him finish. I said, may I please continue? And he did it again. And I said, you're not listening to me. If you don't listen to me, we can't make any headway. But that's what we lawyers do all too often. We answer too quickly. We respond without thinking, without absorbing what the other party is saying. And particularly with opposing lawyers, if you listen and hear what they have to say, it will make so much difference. The next thing I suggest you think about is feel free to say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer at this time. Give me a bit. I will look into it and I will get back to you. And believe it or not, that's a client confidence booster. They feel better knowing that you're not posturing and making up an answer or not pretending to know. It's real and it's genuine. And they don't expect you to have all the answers. And you buy yourself time to do some research and then find the correct answer for them. And then I suggest at the end of the day, honestly assess what went well, what you could have done better, and what you learned from both your successes and challenges. What things happened during the day that you liked, that you're pleased with, that the outcome was good, that you handled well even if it's a challenge? And what things during the day did you maybe not handle as well as you should? And what can you learn from both of those? What can you learn from your successes? And what can you learn from your challenges? That end of day reflection will help you stay focused on what you've done well, but also how you can be a better lawyer. And then I suggest once a week, find 3 people that day who you want to thank in some way. It may be another lawyer who referred a client to you. It may be your staff for their superior service and good attitude. It may be a client who listened to you carefully and took your advice. But think of 3 people you could thank, maybe a colleague in your firm. Thank them in person or take them out to lunch. Find some way to express your gratitude to them. It will really change you when you do that, because grateful attorneys naturally become more humble, more grounded, because they're constantly aware of how much they depend on others for their achievements. It really makes a difference. Why is it so important to have this humble confidence? I'm going to give you, for now, only 3 ways it helps, but they're 3 really, really important ways. The first is you will begin to attract more clients because you authentically connect with them, you listen to them, you understand, you don't posture, you don't pretend, and you really will authentically connect with them, and they will appreciate that. You will get referrals from perhaps some attorneys that you know, but even some attorneys who are on the other side of a case. They will respect who you were and how you handled that case, and they may send you some matters. And third, and most importantly, it's a way to build true long-term sustainability in your practice. You won't suffer from burnout when you're grounded in who you are and how you practice and you focus on service. Long-term sustainability is one of the most important gifts we can get from this sense of humility. What are some obstacles to be faced? Well, the first is the intimidation myth. Some of us worry we face a lawyer who's too aggressive, too nasty. We're going to get in trouble if we come from a place of humility, if we don't respond with the same way. But my experience after 40 plus years, and a lot of it in the courtroom, is those aggressive tactics backfire. Juries don't like them. Judges see them for what they are. And if you remain calm, grounded, and speak your way in a measured and confident tone, those aggressive tactics will work against your opponent. I tried this defamation case, and I've told the story before, but my opponent was just that. He was nasty and he was aggressive, and the jury was so angry at them at the beginning. This whole case was about retaliation by his client, and when he seemed to retaliate against my client in the courtroom, it simply backfired. The next is paralysis from perfectionism. I used to struggle with this. When we live in perfectionism, we take so long, we waste time, we procrastinate. It's never good enough. But I found it so liberating when I was able to strive for excellence, to know that I'm good enough, to know that I'm not perfect, but I'm good enough, and I'm meeting my clients' needs. It truly is freeing to be liberated from that concept of perfectionism. And the final thing is, all of us have had a lot of successes. It's very easy to let them go to our head, isn't it? We win a bunch of cases and we think we're just the best thing ever. But try to maintain perspective. And to me, the most important thing is to acknowledge the contributions of others. Perhaps my associate attorney, perhaps my paralegal, perhaps my client who took my advice and listened well and testified well. Perhaps it's acknowledging that the judge made some rulings that were really favorable, or there were some circumstances beyond my control that served to make it better. So when you do have that success, acknowledge those around you who participated. It will help to keep you grounded. Here's what I want you to remember. As you walk into your next client meeting, your next court appearance, or your next negotiation, you do not need to be the smartest person in the room. You don't need to have all the answers immediately. And you certainly don't need to intimidate anyone to be effective. What you need is to be so grounded in your competence, so secure in your purpose of serving your clients well, that you can afford to be curious instead of defensive, collaborative instead of combative, and honest about what you don't know, while you are at the same time confident about what you do. Our profession desperately needs more attorneys who combine strength with humility, competence with curiosity, and confidence with genuine care for the people we serve. Your journey to unshakable confidence starts with one simple decision. Stop trying to prove yourself. and start focusing on serving others with authentic competence. When you make that shift, everything changes. Your stress levels, your relationships, your results, and most importantly, your satisfaction with this incredible profession that we've chosen. The question is not whether you're capable of becoming a grounded attorney. The question is, are you ready to discover what your practice could become when you stop exhausting yourself, trying to prove your worth, and start operating from the unshakable foundation of knowing your worth? That transformation starts today, and that transformation starts with you. Thank you for joining me here today. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, please be well, be safe, and be free.